Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. Forbes India Leadership Awards.
Hello, good evening, and a very warm welcome to the 11th edition of Forbes India Leadership Awards in association with Leap India, Puma, and Farmeasy. And now let me extend a warm welcome to our chief guest of the evening, Honorable Union Minister of Textiles, Minister of Commerce and Industry, and Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Shri Piyush Goyal.
As we promote India's Atmanirbhar Bharat program, and it's not a program that's closing our doors to the world. It's actually opening them wider. We want to engage with the world from a position of strength, with confidence. Our startups should be world-class. Our technology should be the best in the world. We should be recognized for the quality we offer to the world. And each one of our programs or initiatives are focused with that singular purpose that can India truly leverage our strengths, become a global player, expand our sphere of influence both on the geopolitical side and in trade and economics and business. And I think no better endorsement of the collective effort, the Sabka Prayas that Prime Minister Modi often talks about, than the fact that we have crossed $400 billion of export from India for the first time in India's history. We'll soon have the numbers on service exports, and I promise you that's going to be very, very exciting. I've already reset the target twice during the course of the year, and we are close to touching 250 billion in service exports. And as I've said earlier, I think now it's time for the services sector and the manufacturing sector to have a race to the top as both compete to see who will cross the 1 trillion mark, services or goods. And I have the courage of conviction to say that India is well on track to give us both services and goods touching $1 trillion in the next 10 years. And that is going to drive India's future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goyal. May I request you to please remain on stage, sir, to give away the next award. And it's time now for our flagship Forbes India Leadership Award. And first up, let's hear what the jury was looking for in the Entrepreneur of the Year member. And let's hear out from jury member V. Vaidyanathan, MD and CEO of IDFC First Bank.
When we think of Entrepreneur of the Year, usually, people who have come from nowhere, maybe even for smaller cities, who have really battled hard situations to get where they got in life. It does play a big role. Finally, after all that effort and getting the necessary equity backing and so on, such self-made people, if they go on to create really wonderful products or services which are world-beating, it does make an extra. It does play on the minds of the jury, so to say. In the end, I really think we got a deserving winner, and that's all I can say.
And the Entrepreneur of the Year goes to Girish Matrabhutam, CEO and co-founder of Freshworks.
Thank you, Forbes, and the honorable jury for this award. So I'm honored to accept this, and I would like to dedicate this award to all the employees of Freshworks who have toiled for more than 12 years to take us to where we are, especially in the last 2 years as they kept Freshworks powering through the pandemic.
Our next award category is Unique Unicorn. So let's hear out from jury member Ashu Suyash, entrepreneur and independent director, on what she thought were some of the critical aspects while finding that unique unicorn.
The last 12 months have seen several health tech, ed tech, fintech, e-commerce companies, and also deep tech companies acquire material funding. And I would think it is a year where we've seen the largest number of unicorns make their debut. So it was really a tough choice. I would say the jury was spoiled for choice in that sense. And therefore, from our point of view, from my point of view, looking through the list, we were trying to select that company that indeed had a unique, sustainable business model, that had a clear path towards profitability and could become a decacorn over time.
And the inaugural Unique Unicorn Award goes to Off Business. Let's also hear out from Off Business co-founder Ashish Mahapatra.
Thank you, Forbes India, for the privilege and honor of getting us this award. I think we represent a multitude of businesses that have built in the Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem in the last 5 to 6 years. There are many amongst us, and we feel honored to have been recognized for this.
All right, let's get straight to the next award for this evening, which is another first, the inaugural Green Warrior Award. Let's hear out from jury member Ashu Suyash, entrepreneur and independent director, on what she thought were some of the critical aspects.
The jury was looking at identifying a set of companies that had either transformed their business model and was beginning to move towards clean energy, or was in the clean energy space, had begun to acquire scale, was serving a wider customer base.
And the award goes to Clean Max.
Thank you. Very delighted to accept the award on the behalf of the entire Clean Max team. And given this is a corporate awards function, I wanted to recount one thing about sustainability that I learned long back at the very start of our journey, which is, there's this Sir Robert Scott. He's the only guy to have walked to both the North Pole and the South Pole. And he'd said a very interesting thing, that he's been going to all these COP conferences, on climate change and so on ever since 1992. And he says, I never find any head of state who's there for more than 6 or 7 years. The challenge in climate change is one of continuity of decision-making and thought processes. And his point was that that's where the corporate sector has a huge role to play. And it's very interesting that all of our clients talk about 100% green or 100% reduction in their carbon footprint in a time frame of 3 to 5 years. So it's really the corporates who consume half of the electricity in this country who are going to drive the process of climate change, climate transition.
Thank you and congratulations.
Forbes India Leadership Awards. Forbes India Leadership Awards.
It's now time for a power-packed face-off between two opinion makers. So to introduce the topic and moderate this Oxford-style debate, let me invite on stage Forbes India's Neha Bothra.
Well, we'll move on to the debate. A power-packed topic, as Sumaira just mentioned. We'll be debating tonight if the government's capex boost is going to kickstart private investment and economic growth. Let me welcome our debaters on stage. Saurav Mukherjee of Marcellus Investment. Please come to my right. Madan Sabnavis is speaking against the motion, Chief Economist, Bank of Baroda. He'll be joining us here. But before we begin the debate, you'll find your voting meters on your table. Press T if you think that the government's capex boost is going to kickstart private investment and economic growth. Press F if you think otherwise. Your time to vote starts now. 7% of the audience agrees that the government's capex boost will kickstart private investment and economic growth, but 33% disagree. So that's quite a lopsided view the House has. Saurav, you're speaking for the topic. You're in favor of the motion.
That's right.
So yeah, it seems that the House largely agrees with you, but we'll do the voting once again after the debate is over. Saurav, are you ready?
Yep.
Your time starts now.
So if you look at India's capex or capital expenditure, as the economists call it, this used to be pretty low till the early 90s. It was as low as 20% of GDP. Middle of the 90s, capex in India started going up. And if you look at the peak of capex in India, just before the global financial crisis, we hit 35% of GDP as capex. That was as good as it got. Now, interestingly, even though after the global financial crisis, capex stayed down, it's actually been in the range of 30 to 35% for the last 10 years, right? What's very interesting is even though capex in India has been 30 to 35%, there's this persistent feeling that enough capex nahi ho raha hai, and this constant undercurrent and unease that something's wrong. So let's dig into the numbers to understand what's happened. The biggest driver of capex in India, 60% of capex, as per the government's data, is trade, hotels, transport and communication, right? Trade, hotels, transport and communication, massive sectors. This is 60% of India's capex. Secondly is stamp duty, property taxes have been reduced. And thirdly, the topic that you voted on, government capex at a record high. So if you add the two drivers of main capex, we are back to 31% of GDP.
Thanks, Saurav. That was a fair enough argument. Sounded convincing. Madan, are you convinced?
Now, when we're talking of the government's capex plan of 7.5 lakh crores, if we just juxtapose 7.5 lakh crores with 78 lakh crores, it's around 10%. So ask yourself this question that can 10 lakh crores actually be driving the remaining 78 lakh crores? The answer is evidently not. We need to see more investment coming from other segments. And surprisingly, something which I think doesn't come to our notice is that the state governments tend to have a higher capex plan compared to the central government. So I think because there's a lot of media hype on the central government's budget, so I think all of us talk about 7.5 lakh crores. So to my mind, when we're talking of central government expenditure, while it definitely does contribute to overall growth, it contributes to overall investment, it may not be the sole driving factor. We will have to look at the private sector to look for incentives, which I will come to in my concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Madan. That was very convincing. Saurav, coming to you for the closing comments.
Sure. So I think agree with Madan that government capex is bound to be small, right? Government capex cannot be the whole and sole driver. But there are two other factors which are helping India massively. And the first is technology capex, right? Any of the banks in our country, and banking is a big sector of our banking as a percentage of GDP is a good 20%, or financial services is 20%. The biggest driver of capex in India increasingly is becoming technology capex. Now, how big is technology capex? This is a big question because the government statistician does not measure technology capex. If you build an app, you build a database, you provide technology training to your staff, that is not captured by the government statistician as technology capex. So we did a little bit of data crunching on this. If you take data from the private equity and venture capital community and add up how much money they're pumping into the country, and if you count that as a part of technology capex, tech capex, were it included in the government stats, in the statistician stats, would already take India's total capex to 30 to 33%. The second driver of capex, and in a way proof that this is happening, is job creation. So the EPO4 data, the Provident Fund data, and data from CMI shows in the last 3 years, India has created 32 million jobs in the formal sector. And that, I think, is proof that the capex engine, in spite of COVID, is up and running. I agree with Madan, the government can't do everything here, but the good news is the private sector and technology capex is firing, and job creation we are seeing in our country in the formal sector is proof of that.
Madan, coming to you for the final argument.
So what we have seen in the last 10 years is that there's been very limited investment coming through. Our capacity utilization rate on an average basis has been in the region of around 73 to 74% at the best of times. We've never reached that 78 to 80 on a broad-based manner, which means that While some companies are definitely going in for investment, you look at the cement sector, steel sector, they will say we're operating at over 100% capacity utilization rate. So there is investment taking place. But for more broad-based investment to take place, we need to have better capacity utilization rates, for which we need to have greater demand. So it goes back to saying that, are we having enough consumption taking place in the economy? Consumption has slowed down even before the pandemic. And why is consumption slowed down? It's essentially because we have not created enough jobs. So we saw one thing, that our GDP has been growing. Maybe all of us in this room, we are becoming richer, we are spending more. But have I created jobs at a lower level so that people have more spending capacity? I think that's the main challenge for the country going ahead.
Thank you so much, Madan. Thank you, Saurabh. Both sides were very convincing. I can't make up my mind. So let's go to the audience for a quick audience poll. Could we have the post-debate poll results on the screen, please? 33% of the audience now feels that, yes, the government's capex will boost and kickstart private investment and economic growth, and 67% disagree. So that's been quite a reversal. And you've really convinced the audience, Madan. Thank you so much. Thank you, Saurabh Mukherjee. Thank you once again, both of you, for joining us. Thank you.
And now it's time to recognize lifelong commitment, dedication, and a grit to carry on against the odds. Let's hear from Mr. Mariwala on what the jury was looking for in this year's winner.
First of all, congratulations to Forbes India for instituting this award. It's a very, very critical award because it captures the whole life of an individual and what that individual has done in that life. And it starts with how has the individual built the institution? To what extent does he command respect? What are the governance standards in that organization? Was it a pioneering initiative which others have copied and the whole sector has grown quite a lot? Is the leader has been iconic? Has he built a strong culture? Has he shown empathy? And finally, how is it valued in the capital markets?
And the Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Dr. Pratap Reddy, founder and chairman, Apollo Hospitals. Accepting the award is Mr. Santosh Marathe, Western Region Head, Apollo Hospitals. So we thank Dr. Reddy for his dedication and relentless service. And let's also hear out a message that he sent us.
I'm very, very grateful for Forbes India for giving me this Lifetime Achievement Award. I thank all the committee who has recommended this to give this award, for Dr. Reddy receiving on behalf of the 120,000 Apollo family members who made a significant impact in trying to bring healthcare for people of the nation and to the world.
Let's now dive into an interesting chat with Team India's left-handed opening batsman Shikhar Dhawan in conversation with Forbes India's Rajiv Singh.
Today we have Shikhar Dhawan with us. Hope you are doing great. How do you define the qualities of a leader? What all are needed for that role?
Feel key as a leader. Leader has to be, very, very positive, strong person, and who knows how to control his emotions, because especially in panic situation, if you have calmness and you giving that energy to the team as well, you can think clearly and get the solution. And maybe you're gonna pass or you're gonna fail. That's a different ballgame. But at the same time, if you can think through tough situations, I find a lot of strength in that thing.
And now it's time for the final interaction of the evening. It is my absolute pleasure to invite on stage an actor who has played versatile roles in Telugu and Bollywood films. He has starred in one of Indian cinema's most celebrated movies, Bahubali. There is much more to this actor than what meets the eye. Please join me in welcoming the very affable Rana Daggubati as we explore the other side of Rana Daggubati with Forbes India's Kunal Purandare.
Rana Daggubati, welcome to the Forbes India Leadership Awards.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Hello, good evening to everyone here.
You're invested in businesses ranging from a business accelerator to a tech startup. What do you look for when you decide to put in your money in something, and how involved are you in these businesses?
So my investing really started in trying to make better films. If you see other industries in the West, whether it's Hollywood or others, they have the tech industry backing it. They have a lot of Silicon Valley companies that are backing it. And the organizations are really 360 because they're experts from each of the other fields. But in India, which has like 6 or 7 large film industries, still doesn't speak to the tech in that same city. I mean, look at, say, a city like Bombay. The IT world and the film world don't even meet. So now that was really why I started investing. So it started with visual effects. It moved into, because we had a lot of content that we produced over years. It was, how do we syndicate and distribute our content better? Then that's when blockchain and that world opened up for us. So it started with media tech, moved into consumer brand, and in between, this is where my life is in investing.
You're also the co-owner of Hyderabad FC in the ISL. The football club won the championship, the title, some days ago. You must be a happy man. What are your thoughts on the victory?
Well, it's amazing to see a team that was so young to come all the way flying up. I've been associated with early stage teams when Kabaddi began, now with football, and I think it's amazing that many more sports are getting viewership in India in the mainstream platform than cricket is.
Right, Rana Raghubati, we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks a lot for coming here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We know so much more about you now, Rana, so thanks for that. And may I also invite Forbes India editor Brian Carvalho to please join us on stage in giving a special citation to Rana Raghubati. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the FILA 2022 Icon of Entertainment, Rana Raghubati. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to the end of the 11th edition of the Forbes India Leadership Awards. It's been a fantastic evening, and the credit goes to all of you who took the time to be here with us tonight, and of course to the organizing team. I'd also like to thank our partners, presenting partner Trojena, associate partner Leap India, Puma, and Farmeasy.
Forbes India Leadership Awards. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.